Hello, sports fans, and welcome back to another podcast. In today's podcast, I will be talking about every NBA's best team put together in league history. It is made by Fox Sports, so I'll go through all 30 teams and give you guys my thoughts on it. So here we go. Alright, so ranking at 30, they have the New Orleans Pelicans, and on their team they have Baron Davis, Eric Gordon, Ryan Anderson, David West, and Anthony Davis. And my thoughts on this is I fully agree on who's put on the team, and quite frankly agree with the ranking on this team. Anthony Davis is the only eye catcher, so that's that. Ranking at number 29, you have the Charlotte Hornets, and they have Muggsy Bogues, Dale Curry, Anthony Mason, Larry Johnson, and Al Jefferson. I also agree with this ranking. People could argue that this could rank a little bit higher, which I wouldn't count out, but compared to the next following teams, this is where they belong, I think. Ranking at number 28, they have the Brooklyn Nets, and on their team they have Jason Kidd, Kerry Kittles, Richard Jefferson, Buck Williams, and Brook Lopez. And my thoughts on this is that if it were a real team and put together, they could make some noise and surprise many. I'm not saying a top team, but definitely Jason Kidd and his prime with Brook Lopez and Richard Jefferson all in their prime, they would definitely be a team to watch, so that's that. At number 27, they have the Denver Nuggets, and they have Andre Miller, David Thompson, Alex English, David Issel, and Dikembe Mutombo. This team ranking, in my opinion, could be lower, and I still would agree. Now, yes, this team has Mutombo on it, but against all other teams, one player can't carry the talent, and some would argue that Andre Miller and David Thompson are the talent, but in my opinion, I really don't see that. So yeah, hop into the next team. Ranking at number 26, they have the Toronto Raptors, and on their team they have Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Vince Carter, Amir Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas, and my opinion on this is pretty easy. All in their prime. You tell me, if you put Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and Vince Carter all in the same cart, how does that not sound like greatness? Also, to add Jonas Valanciunas, can't forget him, but the first three were stars on this team. I do believe they could be a little higher on the list than 26, but yeah, that's my opinion. So on number 25, they rank the Los Angeles Clippers, and on their team they have Chris Paul, Ron Harper, Blake Griffin, Elton Brand, DeAndre Jordan. Again, this should be quick. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan obviously all played together, so there's that chemistry. Then you add a player like Ron Harper and Elton Brand. Yeah, you'd be crazy if you say that this team wouldn't be great. Again, like I've said, this team should be a little bit higher. Ranking at number 24, they have the Milwaukee Bucks, and on their team they have Cindy Moncrief, Ray Allen, Bob Dandridge, Glenn Robinson, and Andrew Bogut. And my thoughts on this are, quickly to shorten up, comparing to the teams above, this rating in my opinion is a little too high, but this team has potential, it just doesn't grab my eye compared to the last. Next up, they have the Washington Wizards, and on their team they have John Wall, Gilbert Arenas, Antoine Jamison, Elvin Hayes, and Wes Unseld. Not much to say on this. I will say this though, that is one crazy eye-peeling backcourt in John Wall and Gilbert Arenas. This team would have the potential, I think, to make a lot of noise if it were real, so that's that. At number 22, you have the Minnesota Timberwolves, and on their team they have Ricky Rubio, Kevin Martin, Kevin Love, Kevin Garnett, and Karl Anthony Towns. So on this team, if we're talking about all in their prime, 100%, I would say that this team could be a heavy sleeper on this list, and definitely if we're talking about all in their prime, they deserve to be a little bit higher than a number 22. But yeah, that's that. So at number 21, you have the Dallas Mavericks, and they have Derek Harper, Jason Terry, Michael Finley, Dirk Nowitzki, and Tyson Chandler. My thoughts on this are, this Mavericks team could go either way, really good and make some noise, or just go straight to the dump. It's a hit or miss. Could be higher or it could be lower on the list. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. At number 20, you have the Indiana Pacers, and on their team they have Mark Jackson, Reggie Miller, Paul George, Dale Davis, and Rick Smits. My thoughts on this are, this Pacers team, no question asked, just doesn't deserve to be higher. They need to be higher. A prime Reggie Miller with a prime Paul George. Then they have Mark Jackson as point guard. Yeah, you're crazy if you disagree with that statement, me saying that they deserve a higher rank, so I'll just leave it at that. At number 19, you have the Orlando Magic, and they have Penny Hardaway, Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott, Rashard Lewis, and Dwight Howard. And my thoughts on this are, I think this Magic team is about right where it belongs. Could you argue for a higher rank? Yeah, but just not sure comparing to the other teams that it wins. Most definitely this team alone is a higher rank, just comparing to the rest, not very sure. So at number 18, you have the Portland Trail Blazers, and on the other team they have Damian Lillard, Clyde Drexler, Jerome Kersey, Rasheed Wallace, and Bill Walton. Again, I'll state that this team is a hit or miss. More than likely, I'll say that they deserve to stay where they are or possibly go up a little bit higher, but this team could definitely make a lot of noise, and that's if they got the chemistry down. But I'll keep it at that. So at number 17, you have the Phoenix Suns, and they have Steve Nash, Dan Marley, Sean Marion, Connie Hawkins, Amari Stoudemire. My thoughts on this team could be arguably higher. Don't see why or how you would degrade this team. All in their prime, could be very interesting and fun to watch, but I'll leave it at that. So at the next team, at number 16, you have the Atlanta Hawks, and they have Lenny Wilkins, Joe Johnson, Dominique Wilkins, Al Horford, and Bob Pettit. So my thoughts on this are, in my opinion, this team, like others, is ranking just a little high. Not saying they're not good or couldn't be, but just again comparing to the rest, don't see if they deserve this ranking. So that's that. Number 15, you have the New York Knicks, and on their team they have Errol Monroe, John Starks, Carmelo Anthony, Charles Oakley, and Patrick Ewing. And my thoughts on this are, it's pretty obvious. You're telling me you put Carmelo Anthony, Charles Oakley, and Patrick Ewing all in the same court. You'd be a genius if you were able to put that together in person, because that team, in my opinion, would destroy others. So at number 14, they have the Cleveland Cavaliers, and on their team they have Kyrie Irving, Mark Price, Craig Ello, LeBron James, and Brad Daughtry. And my thoughts on this are, other than the obvious and having Kyrie and Kyrie Irving, I don't see much going on, but let's be real, LeBron James can't count out the legend out of anything when he's on the court, but I'll just leave it at that. Next, you have the Detroit Pistons, and they're number 13. Their team is as follows: Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Grant Hill, Dennis Rodman, and also Bill Laimbeer. So my thoughts on this are, this Pistons team could be a team to watch. Now I can't and won't say they will make a lot of noise, but I believe that they could have the potential to make some. So that's that. So at number 12, you have the Sacramento Kings, and they have Oscar Robinson, Mitch Richmond, Peja Stojakovic, Chris Webber, and DeMarcus Cousins. So this team, if you put this team in today's NBA, yes, I believe it could soar into the playoffs and make some noise with one of the greats, Oscar Robinsons, and then you add DeMarcus Cousins, and then the legend, Peja Stojakovic. Definitely, I see this team doing great and definitely making noise in the playoffs if it were real. So that's that on this team. At number 11, you have the Memphis Grizzlies, and on their team they have Mike Conley, Mike Miller, Sean Battier, Paul Gasol, and Mark Gasol. So to start off, you of course got Mike Conley, who's a great leader of the team before the obvious and current time. He left the team for the Utah Jazz, but besides that, then NBA fans, you finally get the dynamic duo and the Gasol brothers that we've been waiting to see. So I think that this team could be very good. So next up, you got the Miami Heat at number 10, and their team is as follows. They have Tim Hardaway, Dwayne Wade, Glenn Rice, Chris Bosh, Alonzo Mourning. My thoughts on this are, so to quickly add, I'm surprised LeBron James wasn't added to this list. As obvious, the duo of James and Wade. But besides that, Tim Hardaway and Dwayne Wade, that would be one scary backcourt. Then you would have Chris Bosh at the power forward. Altogether, this team ranking is perfect, I think, and could only get better, not even worse. Next, you have the Houston Rockets at number 9, and they have Kenny Smith, James Harden, Tracy McGrady, Robert Horry, and Hakeem Olajuwon. So this team is stacked from talent from 1 to 5, and honestly, I see this team being a top 3 team all time, but I guess I could see where they are ranked, where they are. So I'll leave that at that. Number 8, you have the Utah Jazz, and on their team they have John Stockton, Pete Maravich, Andre Killernia, Karl Malone, and Mark Eaton. To start off, you already have a super dynamic duo in the backcourt in John Stockton and Pete Maravich. Then you look a little farther and you see Karl Malone. I'd say this team has a great one, and I agree where they are placed. So next you have the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they have Gary Payton, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Sean Kemp, and Jack Silkma. So with this team, just to state the obvious, this is a star-studded lineup. I mean, you have two of the best players of this era to play the game. Then you add two of the best players in the game in the 90s. Put those four on the court. In my opinion, that's just a super team. So that's that. Number 6, you have the Philadelphia 76ers. And their team is Allen Iverson, Andre Iguodala, Julius Erving, Charles Barkley, and Moses Malone. My thoughts on this are to state right off the bat, I believe this team as a whole together is one of the best teams to play the game if they were all on the same court together. With that, I'll add you have the talent of every position. Then you have a player in Andre Iguodala who could up the talent on the court and keep the chemistry up. Altogether, this is my favorite team so far on the list. At number 5, you have the Golden State Warriors, and they have Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Chris Mullin, Draymond Green, and Wilt Chamberlain. This Warriors team put together is quite interesting. If you look right off the bat, 3 out of the 5 players who played with each other in Curry, Thompson, and Green. So there's that chemistry right there. Then you add the talent of Chris Mullin and the greatest to ever play the game, Wilt Chamberlain. I'll just say one thing and keep it at that. You'd be nuts if you bet against this team. At number 4, you have the Boston Celtics, and they have Bob Cousy, Paul Pierce, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Bill Russell. So my thoughts on this. Now, I know he played for a couple teams in his career, but I'll start off by saying I'm surprised to see Kevin Garnett on this team. But besides that, this team, then in the 3 star-studded and Paul Pierce, Larry Bird, and Bill Russell, if that doesn't catch your eye, I don't know what will. And to add on, I'd say that this team is a safe bet to bet on for the finals if it were real. So that's that team. At number 3, you have the Chicago Bulls, and they have Derrick Rose, Michael Jordan, and Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, and Artis Gilmore. Finally, someone who thinks the way I do. I've said for years I wonder what Rose, Jordan, and Pippen would look like. I'd honestly say that due to this talent of this team has singly accomplished, they deserve to be top 3, or some would even argue number 1. So that's that. Next up, you have the final 2. And so at number 2, they have the San Antonio Spurs. And on their team, they have Tony Parker, Greg Gervin, Kawhi Leonard, Tim Duncan, and David Robinson. And the Spurs team put together already catches my eye by having Parker, Leonard, and Duncan, whom all played together. Then you add the stars George Gervin and David Robinson. Self-explanatory that this team would glide through competition if they were real. So finally, next up, you have number 1, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. And their team is as follows. They have Magic Johnson, Jerry West, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So my thoughts on this is this Lakers team in one word is wow. I mean, you have literally 5 Hall of Fame worthy players all in the same court who all played with at least one another. I have no argument with this ranking as they deserve to be on top of this list. So yeah, that wraps up this podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. My next podcast will be here in about 3 days, and that podcast will be about every MLB's team's standing so far as the season has just resumed. So yeah, I'd be expecting that. All right, see you guys in the next one. Peace out.